Colleague Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is great to have the opportunity to speak to you this morning because your forum, Eurocloud, demonstrates how vibrant the European cloud computing scene already is. Now, I have been looking at the nominees for your Eurocloud Awards, and I am struck by their diversity. I see cloud services for human resources, talent management, identity management, better portability of email data, to name but a few. This shows what potential lies in the services in the cloud computing area. And these are all very practical illustrations on the way in which the cloud is already transforming our business world. It is a real game changer. Users can command almost unlimited computing power on demand, and they no longer need to make significant investment to meet their data storage needs. They can access data from anywhere as long as they have an internet connection. And that is why the cloud forms an incredibly important part of the digital single market policy, one which will help to create growth and jobs. And here I do believe that Europe needs to think big, because we must harness the potential of the cloud by taking the lead. We must not only be cloud friendly, we must be cloud active. The actions which have been proposed by Commissioner Neelie Kroes and myself in the communication on cloud computing could lead to an additional 45 billion euro of direct spending on cloud computing in the EU. And the cumulative impact on GDP could be 956 billion, creating 3.8 million jobs. The aim of our communication is to tackle the questions around standards, contracts, and a European cloud partnership. But you all know, and we know, that we will only reap the benefits of the cloud if you get our policies right. Without the right policies, the economic benefits will be just a fraction of the numbers I just quoted. Some of the challenges facing the cloud are already clear. Today, many potential users think it is too complicated, too risky, too untrustworthy. Those are the barriers we need to remove. And if we do remove them, 98% of the companies say in a poll that they will then increase or start investment in the cloud. So the biggest challenge which is in front of us is the lack of trust. We must tackle this problem head on, and that is why I have already begun to do so by proposing a data protection reform package. The European Union's data protection laws date back to 1995. Remember those pre-internet times? Only 1% of Europe's population was using the internet. The founder of Facebook was 8 years old, and clouds were saturated air. So since 1995, a new economy has emerged. Personal data has become a very valuable asset. The market for analysis of large sets of data is growing by 40% per year worldwide. And the currency of this new digital economy is data, and in many cases, personal data. Like any currency, to be successful, it needs to flow freely. The data protection reform makes sure this can happen. It established one single set of rules for the whole internal market and regulates transfers beyond the borders of the Union. But the free flow of any currency depends on a precious commodity, trust. It is only when consumers can trust that their data is well protected, that they will continue to entrust it to the businesses and authorities, that they will buy online, that they will accept new product developments, new services. And trust, ladies and gentlemen, is waning. 70% of European citizens are concerned that their personal data held by companies may be used for a purpose other than the one for which it was collected. If we want to be a success story in the new digital world, we must reverse this trend. Reliable, consistently applied rules make data processing safer, cheaper, and inspire consumers' confidence. Confidence, in turn, drives growth. So the data protection reform will allow the free flow of data in the cloud by simplifying the regulatory framework. Simplifying means first, think European. Do not think small. Do not think national. Get rid of the constraints of the national border. Don't limit your ambition. Only with a European approach can we find the economies of scale which will benefit the cloud computing providers and consumers alike. So here, ladies and gentlemen, the internal market of Europe is our crown jewel. 500 million potential customers, cutting costs, boosting business. And then, of course, we need to get rid of the barriers which still exist on this market. And the cloud will allow companies to cut costs. And it is also this the goal of the data protection reform package. In fact, companies will be able to do business in Europe's single market on the basis of one law. Today, they have 27 different and often contradictory laws they have to obey to. This will save companies around 2.3 billion euros per year. That's not peanuts, especially for companies that use cloud computing across border. And if cloud computing is designed, it is to be cross-border. Those companies will utilize and benefit greatly from harmonized rules. The Commission will also scrap administrative ballast. No more obligation for companies to notify each and every time data is processed. This will save 130 million euro per year. It is clear that the key aim of the data protection reform is to reduce administrative burdens on one side and to increase the protection of the individuals on the other side. Anyone who tries to argue the EU is creating superfluous bureaucracy and red tape has not read this text. Now, we all know that data flows do not stop at national borders, and they don't stop at the borders of our continent either. The cloud means that personal data can be stored everywhere, and taking a flight results in personal passenger data being exchanged worldwide. A bank transfer triggers the access of foreign companies or government agencies worldwide, and that is why the proposals establish a very important principle. They made it clear that our data rules apply to any data controller that offers goods and services to an individual residing in the EU. We make no difference whether the data controller is established within the EU or not. By introducing a consistent level of data protection for Union citizens, they can then in return be confident in the protection the data will receive. And the data controllers know that they need to apply only one piece of legislation on the whole continent, which will give them legal certainty and cut a lot of costs they have today. And it is this platform, ladies and gentlemen, to facilitate international data transfers that we have put on the table. The proposals extend also to binding corporate rules, to codes of conduct, allowing for transfers within companies with branches inside and outside the EU. In most cases, we will eliminate the need to obtain authorization of supervisory authorities before transferring data outside the EU when the elements of accountability are existing. These rules are, I do believe, tailor-made for the cloud because they will leave the data flow very easily without barriers and without difficulties, because same rules will apply irrespective of where the data is stored, and they will facilitate the flow of data within the cloud. They reflect the reality of the cloud. Now, our protection reform puts the people in control of their data, and that is important, not only because it is a fundamental right which is inscribed in our treaties and in our Charter of Fundamental Rights, so it has constitutional value, but it also makes economic sense, because we all know that the cloud will not prosper if consumers do not trust it. So it is in the interest of the business to provide for this trust. And here I do believe that the business needs to do really much better than it does today. Data breaches are numerous. 6 million passwords were disclosed just a few weeks ago. And the portability of personal data does not work as it should. Our data is scattered about hundreds of databases, and getting it deleted when it is no longer needed is a daunting task today. Let me give you a few examples of the scale of the problem. Take the management of customer data. Studies show that more than 50% of customer relation management projects fail. This is usually due to the problems linked to the quality of personal data. That means that half of the money invested in the customer relationship management is lost. Now, that cannot be the aim of any business behavior. And on data breach notifications, studies show that introducing such rules leads to far fewer breaches, and fewer breaches mean less cost for companies, and the reduced cost outweighed the initial investment. Insufficient information for the user can also lead to reputational damage. Just 2 weeks ago, confusion between public and private messages sent by users caused an upset in one of the major social networks and a significant drop in the value of its shares. So all this has to be avoided because it is damaging for trust and it is damaging for the economy as a whole. And that is why we will expand cloud computing in the European Union only if consumers have faith in online providers. Without this confidence, it would be very difficult to boost cloud computing as part of the digital single market. So how can we fix this? First, the Commission has clear responsibility and accountability rules for those processing personal data put in place. We have included incentives for controllers to invest from the start to get the data protection right. We have foreseen data protection impact assessment, data protection by design, data protection by default. These principles encourage data controllers to think about data protection from the beginning when they create a new application or a new service. And second, we have strengthened citizens' rights. The new rules clarify the notion of consent and have introduced a general transparency principle. There is an obligation to notify clients' data breaches, which will apply to all sectors. And the right to be forgotten is an important pillar of the proposal because it empowers the user under certain well-defined conditions to ask a company to delete the personal data they have been given to this company. Citizens will also be able to transfer their data from one service provider to another just as they are able to keep their mobile number when changing telecom operators. Choice drives competition, and implementing these on the clouds will be of crucial importance. Now, how will those rules for the data protection be enforced in Europe? The consumer will always turn to his national data protection authority when he has a problem with a company, no matter where the company is based. He will no longer have to labor through the process of contracting authorities in different EU member states. This will be done by the national data authorities sitting together with the other national data authorities. And the same unbureaucratic one-stop shop goes also for companies. They will have one data protection authorities responsible for them, the one in the country which they have chosen as their main establishment. This cuts costs while it increases legal certainty. Ladies and gentlemen, your Eurocloud initiative is a very needed initiative, and we applaud to it because we need such work to be done to bring cloud services to a new level of competitiveness, performance and security. And our roadmap, which the Commission has put on the table, allows for going to this direction. I believe that cloud computing is an opportunity for our economy, so let's seize this opportunity with an approach that is ambitious, effective, European. No, ladies and gentlemen, it is neither for the member states nor for Brussels to control the cloud. But we as policymakers have to put down a stable cross-border environment in which the cloud can prosper. That is what Europe is doing in this moment. We have something behind our mind, a world cloud computing powerhouse. So help us to get Europe to a cloud computing powerhouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the great speech. Just one question. If we get to be regulated, how will we be able to compete with American or offshore competition that is not regulated?
The good information is that America has woken up, and there are initiatives to follow the regulatory framework Europe is putting in place. The next government is going to take that in hand. In this moment, there is a bipartisan proposal on the table by two senators from both sides of the House. And the second is, we are not regulating, we are deregulating. Because what is happening today? Today you have 27 regulations in Europe. Very complicated, sometimes conflicting. So what are we proposing now? To scrap those 27 and to replace them by one. So if you want to have an authorization in order to utilize the whole of the European territory, you do not need to start 27 times and adapt to 27 different rules, but you need to do it once with one data protection authority. So I think that this is the biggest deregulation initiative which has ever been taken in the European Union. Next.
I have a question in the middle.
Thank you very much for your view and opinion on the market at first. I have a small question. Is there a possibility that there will be a doorway to European regulation instead of national regulations? So we can bypass them, for example?
There will be no more national regulation because I put a piece of legislation on the table which will eliminate national regulation. So no more national regulation, only one European regulation for the whole continent.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Commissioner Reding, is there a timescale for the for the legislation that is planned?
Oh,
sorry.
I was looking who was asking the question. Yeah, I put the proposal on the table on the 25th of January, as I had always announced, even if some very strong lobby movements had tried to prevent that, but normally when I say something, it happens. And now it is in the discussion, because you know the Commission has only a proposal power. The Commission proposes legislation, and then it is the lawmakers, the Council of Ministers, and the European Parliament, which take the text and try to find a common way. The European Parliament is working full speed. It will come out with its first proposals at the end of this year. The Council has started its work in summer during at full speed also in summer during the Cypriot presidency, and during the next Council meeting of the Ministers of Justice and of the Ministers of the Interior here in Luxembourg at the end of this month, the first decisions are going to be taken. The aim is, and I have discussed about this with the Irish Taoiseach, with the Irish Prime Minister, the aim is that at the end of the Irish presidency in summer 2013, there should be a political agreement.